Hey everyone, welcome. Today, we're diving into something that is absolutely critical if you're building with AI, security. Look, if you're working with large language models, you're basically an explorer on a new frontier. The old security maps, they're just not going to work here. So the big question is, how do you protect your app from a whole new class of threats? This quote from Thomas Tungus just hits the nail on the head. Traditional software is predictable, right? You put X in, you get Y out, every single time. But LLMs, they're designed to be unpredictable. And that chaotic behavior is what makes them so amazing. But it's also what opens up this giant, messy, and totally undefined new way for attackers to get in. So think about it this way. For decades, security was all about finding flaws in the code. But now, with LLMs, the game has completely changed. Yeah, you still need to worry about the code, for sure, but an attacker might not even need to touch it. They can just talk to your AI. They can weaponize the prompt itself or the data you feed it and trick your application into doing exactly what they want. Okay, so what do these new kind of weird dangers actually look like in the real world? Because, this isn't just theory. This stuff is happening right now, and the results, well, they can be pretty hilarious, but they can also be seriously concerning. Get this. A car dealership chatbot got sweet-talked into selling a brand new Chevy Tahoe for $1. One. Or how about Discord's AI, which got jailbroken, that's basically tricking it into breaking its own safety rules, by people pretending to be a sweet, harmless grandma telling it stories about how to make napalm. And then there's the really serious stuff, where researchers have been able to pull out private training data. We're talking people's actual phone numbers and emails. Yikes. These examples make one thing crystal clear. You can't just build your app and wait for something bad to happen. So that's the million-dollar question, right? How do you actually get ahead of this? How do you find these bizarre, totally non-obvious holes in your security before the bad guys do? Well, that is exactly where a new kind of tool comes into play. And today, we're going to take a look at a really popular one, an open source framework called Promptfoo. It's designed from the ground up to be your AI's personal bodyguard. So Promptfoo is all about this idea called LLM red teaming. It's a fancy term, but it's really simple. It's ethical hacking, but for AI. The entire goal is to be the bad guy, to systematically attack your own app, to poke and prod it for weaknesses, and find all those vulnerabilities before you even think about shipping to production. And just so we're clear, this isn't some tiny experimental thing. It has a massive open source community behind it. We're talking over 200,000 developers who are already using this to lock down their applications. That huge community is one thing, but it's also got serious corporate buy-in. 44 Fortune 500 companies are using it, and it's got almost 9,000 stars on GitHub. So this thing is battle-tested and it's tested at scale. Okay, let's get into the good stuff. How does Promptfoo actually work? How does it turn the chaotic art of hacking an AI into a repeatable science? Well, it all boils down to 3 core parts. The easiest way to think about it is like you're assembling a security team for a mission. Your plugins are your specialists. You've got the expert who hunts for PII leaks, another one who's a master at finding SQL injection. The strategies are their playbook. Are they going to go in with a direct attack or a really sneaky jailbreak? And finally, the targets. That's just who you're sending the team after, your API, your chatbot, you name it. And the whole workflow is super straightforward. First, you just configure everything in a simple file. Then, the engine takes your config and generates hundreds, maybe thousands of these little attack probes. It fires them all at your app, and then it sits back and evaluates the responses to see what broke. It's automated security testing for the AI age. Okay, so that's the high-level framework, but theory is one thing. Let's get practical. How does this actually apply to the apps that you and I are building every day? We're going to look at how you can use Promptfoo to protect the 2 most common architectures out there, RAG apps and agents. First off, it's super important to know the difference here. A RAG application is basically a super smart librarian. It reads a bunch of documents and answers your questions. So its biggest risk is all about the data, making sure it's not poisoned or stolen. An agent, on the other hand, is more like a personal assistant. It can actually do things using tools. And its biggest risk? Being tricked into doing something dangerous. So for RAG systems, the attacks are all about messing with the information the AI is seeing. An attacker could literally hide a malicious command inside a PDF in your knowledge base. Or they could try to poison your data with lies, or craft a really clever question that tricks the model into spitting out sensitive info or PII. Personally identifiable information like names and credit card numbers.
And look how easy it is to test for this stuff. You don't have to be a security genius. In this little config file, you just tell it which plugins to use, like check for rag poisoning and PII, and which strategies to try, like prompt injection. That's it. Promptfoo then goes and runs this incredibly targeted set of tests to find those exact weaknesses.
Now, agents, they're a whole different animal. Because they can take action, the attacks get scarier. You worry about things like memory poisoning, where an attacker influences future actions, or even classic SQL injection. But the really big ones are what's called privilege escalation, basically tricking the agent into using a tool or accessing data it's not supposed to have the keys for.
And check out the strategy here, Crescendo. I love that name. This isn't just a one-and-done attack. It's a social engineering attack for an AI. The attacker builds up trust over a few turns in a conversation, and then, bam, they hit it with a real payload. This config tells Promptfoo to specifically test for these clever multi-turn attacks, plus all those other critical agent vulnerabilities.
Okay, so you've configured your tests. You've unleashed thousands of attack probes on your application. What do you actually get for all your trouble? This, right here, is the real payoff.
You get a beautiful, clear, and totally actionable report. It's not just some vague red flag. It tells you the exact vulnerability it found, how severe it is, the precise method the attack used to get through, and, most importantly, it gives you concrete steps on how to fix it. This process turns all that scary, abstract AI danger into a simple, prioritized to-do list for your engineering team. Look, this kind of systematic, proactive approach, this is the future of AI security. As these models get more and more powerful and we start embedding them into our most critical systems, just hoping for the best is not a strategy. We cannot afford to be reactive.
So, what's the big takeaway here? First, LLM security is a wild new world. Second, being proactive with red teaming isn't just a good idea anymore, it's absolutely essential. Third, tools like Promptfoo give you a powerful, open source, and systematic way to do it. And finally, you can, and you should, tailor your defenses to the very specific risks that your app faces, whether it's a RAG, an agent, or something else entirely. And that really leaves us with one final crucial question you have to ask yourself. Your AI is getting smarter, more capable, and more autonomous every single day. The question is your security keeping up? Thanks so much for joining me.